Hello, my beautiful doves. My name is Mina. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new here. Today we're going to be talking about house tours and specifically like the Architectural Digest open door house tours that everyone's obsessed with on the internet, or maybe just everyone in my circle is obsessed with. Hi, AD.
What up, AD?
Ah, hey AD, what's up?
If you are unfamiliar with these tours, they're basically like when a celebrity shows off their house.
It's Kendall Jenner. Welcome to my house. Come on in.
And it's like on their YouTube page. You can like go to their YouTube and you can just see like hundreds. I think there's like 140 of them. But you can see tens of videos of people, celebrities showing off where they live, and they are so fun to watch. I binge watched like 10 of them today while waiting for my computer to get fixed. I just like wanted to talk about the appeal and, you know, all that jazz. Architectural Digest has built a bit of an empire on the celebrity homes interior business. AD has been doing celebrity home spreads in their magazines starting from at least 1964 when they did a feature on Mickey Rooney's house, but most of us are familiar with their YouTube page that I mentioned before, where they've published a series called Open Door, featuring, you know, tons of celebrity home tours from Gwyneth Paltrow to RuPaul to Troye Sivan. It's somewhat similar to Vogue's 73 Questions video series that usually takes place in a celebrity's home, but instead of asking them 73 pre-planned random questions while they walk us through their hallways, the celebs in these videos are invited to really pause and showcase every curated room in their house. But, you know, AD didn't pioneer this type of content. One of the earliest examples of the celebrity home tour I can think of is the White House home tour in 1962, that then First Lady Jackie Kennedy organized, aptly called A Tour of the White House. This televised tour, which was cast on CBS and NBC simultaneously on Valentine's Day, was meant to showcase Jackie's famous White House restoration project, where she resolved to make the White House a living museum by restoring the historic integrity of the public rooms and displaying the very best of American artwork, furniture, and decor. United Press international correspondent Helen Thomas recalled Jackie's feelings on the White House before the project. An aide told me later that Jackie thought the White House looked like a hotel that had been decorated by a wholesale furniture store during a January clearance. Ate them up, Jackie. Public anticipation about the tour was great, not because people were interested in the White House, though I'm sure some people were, but because they were interested in Jackie, who would be narrating the tour. As Mary Ann Watson writes for the Presidential Studies Quarterly, it was the possibility the president's wife would reveal something more about herself during the 60 minutes in which she willingly took her place on America's center stage. The cover of TV Guide the week of the broadcast, a close-up shot of Mrs. Kennedy with slightly tousled hair and direct gaze, suggested the TV tour would be a more intimate, candid affair than it turned out to be. While it was definitely a little awkward to watch now, the program was a success at the time. Many of the 56 million viewers who tuned in were so moved by it that they sent letters and telegrams to Jackie, thanking her for her gracious hospitality and the privilege of being her guest. Granted, I feel like Jackie Kennedy kind of ascended the title of mere celebrity while occupying the White House, like she was literally the first lady, but I think her home tour is a really good example of the public's growing fascination in the 60s with the idea that TV could bring us closer to the lives of people we watch movies of or read about in the papers. The way Jackie breaks the fourth wall by addressing the camera directly and therefore speaking directly to the viewer makes us feel like we're actually in the room with her.
Well, it's the room that people see first when they come to the White House. Everyone who comes to a state dinner here comes through it and leaves by it.
Ultimately, the success of Jackie Kennedy's tour led to other celebrity documentaries aimed at female audiences, including A Look at Monaco, which was Grace Kelly's tour of her home and lifestyle in Monaco post-marrying the prince, The World of Sophia Loren, and Elizabeth Taylor in London. Even though many of the celebrities we see today don't have the same cultural intrigue as Jackie Kennedy, the AD tours as a whole are still very successful, amassing millions of views per video. And part of the reason is because people are interested in the lifestyles of the rich and famous. Most people can't afford a Picasso painting in their living room, or a fancy indoor spa room, or a $35,000 lighting fixture. And so, watching people who can afford these kinds of amenities provides fodder for personal escapist fantasies. One show that really fed into this hype was Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, which premiered in 1984 and ran until 1995, pioneering the celeb home tour genre on TV. Some notable special guests include Elizabeth Taylor, always at the scene of the crime, James Brown, Twiggy, and Prince Albert of Monaco. The show was hosted by Robin Leach and took viewers on a tour of not just his wealthy guest homes, but also their summer homes, their garages full of expensive sports cars, and closets full of designer clothes. It was experiential, and he even brought audiences along into private planes, helicopters, yachts, and limos to see where these wealthy people vacationed. Judy Berman wrote about the show for Time magazine. Mansions, yachts, celebrities with golden tans lounging poolside, host Robin Leach's foghorn baritone showering viewers with champagne wishes and caviar dreams. This is the fantasy lifestyles of the rich and famous peddled for more than a decade, beginning in the mid-'80s when Ronald Reagan reigned, the economy soared, Wall Street was cool, and hippies who'd grown up to be yuppies conspicuously consumed. Leach explained to the New York Times in 1985 why the yuppies, or young urban professionals, were interested in the show. It's almost as though they were tuning in on the show to take notes on how they would take their money and spend it. Leach also said in a 1990 interview, "Fascination with wealth is eminently healthy. The American capitalist system offers the chance at the best of what there is, and Lifestyles keeps banging home the values of the good life. The idea is, work hard and you'll be rewarded. The audience sees it as fun and entertaining. The audience also learns something, that capitalism, though not perfect, is the best system. The Russians are learning that now. We say it's okay to better your life. We say that the American dream is still alive and well." So, Leach was fully leaning into that 1980s Reagan-esque type of spiel. But his comments about Russia are also interesting because the idea of the home has always been used as a political symbol. But during the Cold War specifically, many Americans showed pride in their idealistic suburban white picket fence type of home and looked down on the communal apartments in the Soviet Union. Communal. Why did I say because communist. Okay, communal apartments were buildings where multiple people or families lived in, and they would share amenities like hallways, kitchens, and bathrooms. Anya von Bremzen, who's the author of Mastering the Art of Soviet Cooking, explains, "The communal apartment was like a microcosm of Soviet society. People from all walks of life, sometimes absolute class enemies, living next to each other. The expression was densed up. The allotment was 9 square meters per person." This mid-century American importance of the house was also emphasized in the famous kitchen debate. So if you don't know what that is, the context is this. In 1958, the Soviet Union and United States agreed to set up national exhibitions in each other's nations as part of an emphasis on cultural exchange. The Soviet Union's exhibition in New York focused on their progress, so Sputnik satellites, statues of Soviet workers, and a model of an atomic icebreaker. However, the American exhibition in Moscow focused on lifestyle. They built a pavilion that featured American jazz, basketball, high-heeled shoes, sleek cars, abstract art, and Pepsi Cola. At the center of the exhibit was a model house that represented the typical American home. Vice President of the time, Richard Nixon, was leading the Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev through the exhibition on a private tour before it opened to the public, and they subsequently engaged in a pretty heated debate about capitalism versus communism. You can actually watch the debate since it was recorded and broadcast in both countries, but I just thought that was an interesting example of how the home has kind of been used to pitch capitalism, American capitalism, to the world.
Everything that I say will be recorded and translated and will be carried all over the Soviet Union.
So, back to the appeal of the home tour. Another reason we like them is because we're nosy. For parasocial reasons or just general curiosity towards the way other people are living, we want to know. It kind of reminds me, I don't know if this is the same for everyone else, but as a kid, I loved going to open houses in my neighborhood. Not even because I was interested in like the architecture or because there was a very beautiful house that was being erected. Like obviously that would appeal to me more if the house looked nice on the outside. I would want to know what's inside even more. But it was just like the idea of knowing the potential lifestyle the new neighbors would be having just based on the layout of their home. I don't know, it's just interesting. So yeah, I used to love going to open houses. And obviously celebrities have that kind of outreach that makes them more relevant and known to more circles of people, so that generates more interest in them specifically. But this has been the case for a long time. So if you don't know what star maps are, they're these brochures that claim to identify the home addresses of celebrities, and they emerged in Hollywood in the 1920s. Though I also think that, like, isn't it true that property ownership is technically like public domain knowledge? So I don't think it's actually that hard to find out where celebrities are living if you go on to like certain housing databases. Is that correct? I've never tried searching for a celebrity's home address. I just thought that was the case. Anyways, Carrie Ferris and Scott R. Harris wrote about them in their book, Stargazing: Celebrity Fame and Social Interaction. Maps of the star's home are sold on almost every Hollywood street corner, and their continued popularity indicates that fans have always sought the information necessary to track down celebrities in their private lives. We use the term fan-staged encounter to describe the process through which fans seek out and use accessed information, effectively hunting down and even interacting with a celebrity in the course of his or her daily rounds. In fan-staged encounters, the fan is in control. And ironically, like when celebrities are more tight-lipped about their privacy, there's even more intrigue in what they're doing. We want to know what we can't know. Actress Greta Garbo is probably the most famous case of this in the 20th century. She was known to be super mysterious. She was constantly dodging the press. She avoided industry social functions. She rarely partook in interviews. She never attended movie premieres. She never signed autographs or answered fan letters. And she never went to award ceremonies despite being nominated. So for the Oscars, she was nominated 3 times. She never attended. And in 1954, she actually won the Academy Honorary Award, which they mailed to her because, of course, she didn't show up. And yet, she was one of the most popular stars in Hollywood in the 1930s. Variety reported that even after her retirement in 1941, some people in Manhattan, including photographers, participated in Garbo watching, hoping to spot her as she took long walks in casual clothes and with large sunglasses. One woman told Variety she had followed Garbo for an hour. "I didn't need to talk with her. It was enough just to be in her presence, to breathe the same air." Sidney Lumet even directed a 1984 comedy drama called Garbo Talks about a dying fan who wants to meet her, starring Anne Bancroft and Carrie Fisher. But going back to houses. In 2003, Barbra Streisand actually attempted to suppress photographs taken of her house. She sued photographer Kenneth Edelman for displaying a photo of her Malibu home. The photo was part of this project, which was illustrating coastal erosion in hopes to convince policymakers to take action. So it wasn't actually like a targeted attempt to boost fanfare around Barbra, but her legal action was dismissed under California law, and ironically, news of her lawsuit led more people to come visit her home. According to the BBC, her home received around 420,000 visits in a month. Mike Masnick of TechDirt coined her attempt to suppress attention that ended up bringing more attention to her as the Streisand effect in January 2005. The TV show that changed the celebrity home voyeurism industry, though, was MTV Cribs, which first aired in 2000. The show had no host. Instead, celebrities conducted their own tours, speaking directly to the camera, which resulted in a more intimate format.
What's up, y'all? Big Snoop D-O-double-G. I want to welcome y'all to my house.
The Cribs show creator, Nina L. Diaz, said of the concept to EW, "I was doing long-form music news pieces and documentaries, covering artists and celebrities in very structured interviews. As a fan first, I was always curious to explore more about these dynamic personalities and get to know them in more authentic and unfiltered ways. Back then, we didn't have much access to peek behind the curtain and intimacy with our favorite artists. There was much more mystique surrounding celebrity images." So the writer Bobby Finger connects the success of Cribs with the launch of the short-form YouTube series I mentioned earlier, Architectural Digest Open Door, and Vogue's 73 Questions, as well as celebrity home reality TV shows that capitalized on this proven audience fixation with home environments. For example, Nina Diaz filmed an episode of Cribs in the home of Ozzy and Sharon Osbourne in 2000. Diaz actually told Sharon that her home wasn't just an episode of the show, it was a show in itself. She said to her, "Just put cameras here. Everything that you guys exchange, like right now, is fascinating." And then, coincidence? Less than 2 years later, The Osbournes premiered on MTV, introducing television viewers to what VH1 would later call celeb reality.
Hey there, please. Could you... hi, it's Sharon here. Could you just tell her mum called? Thank you so much. Thank you.
The other difference, other than lack of host, between Cribs and Lifestyles was that Cribs was less a show about real estate and it was more a show on celebrities. As Manny Ray wrote, the Destiny's Child episode of Cribs is jarring. Not because it's bad or anything, but mostly because it's amazing to see Beyonce be a goofball. The last reason I can think of for why we might all be invested in celebrity homes is because there's sort of like a Schadenfreude-like pleasure from watching rich people design ugly homes. For example, the draw for many Cribs episodes wasn't just like the opulence, right? It was the tastelessness or the insanity. Many guests appeared to be aware of this, though, and they actively played into the joke. Ruth Kinane wrote for EW on Mariah Carey's Cribs episode. Call her Mariah Antoinette. The diva's Tribeca beige satin marble penthouse had everything an empress could desire, like doors made of gold, a special lingerie closet, and a mermaid room, which was, well, we're still not sure.
See, people call me a mermaid because I like to swim.
After several wardrobe changes, Mariah unwound in a bubble bath with one of her pups, then pretended to put another in the dryer. Oh, Mimi, let them eat cake. Aside from Cribs, there's an estate called the Grey Gardens Estate, which drew up a lot of public interest in the 1970s because of how decrepit the mansions were. So if you don't know about this, Grey Gardens is this like 14-room house in East Hampton, New York, that was residence to the Beale family from 1924 to 1979. The National Enquirer and New York Magazine published stories about it in the early 70s, making the family into this like tabloid sensation. The two women, Edith Beale, known as Big Edie, and her daughter, also Edith, known as Little Edie, lived at Grey Gardens for decades by themselves. Then, on October 22, 1971, the county organized a raiding party of sanitarians, detectives, and ASPCA representatives to enter the home with a search warrant issued by a town justice on the ground that the Beales were harboring diseased cats. As Gail Sheehy reported for New York Magazine, cameras recorded the sorry scene. Cat manure covering the floors, a 5-foot-high mound of empty cans in the dining room, the Sterno stove on Mother's bed, cobwebs, cats, and all sorts of juicy building code violations. The sanitarians had the dry heaves. It remained for the ASPCA man alone to report he'd seen human fecal matter in the upstairs bedroom. So, Big Edie's niece, who also happened to be the Jackie Kennedy Onassis, gave $32,000 to repair and clean up the house out of concern and embarrassment, but work was held up by the Edie's complaints over where to put certain belongings.
Come on. I want to show that to Al.
Oh, no,
I want to show it to Al. Look what you made me do.
Oh, you did it.
Following all this, Albert and David Maisleys decided to direct a documentary on their life titled Grey Gardens, which screened at New York Film Festival in 1975. The documentary was then made into a musical in 2006 and a movie in 2009 starring Drew Barrymore and Jessica Lange.
But you see, in dealing with me, the relatives didn't know that they were dealing with a staunch character.
The public interest was most likely because it was really hard to imagine how like these women who were once socialites, who were literally related to Jackie Kennedy and Lee Radziwill, how these women who were like quite literally the definition of old money, quiet luxury, could end up living in such squalor. The documentary's trailer also utilizes a lot of this narrative framing as well to get people to come see it. So in the trailer, they featured news headlines that remark on the riches to rags story of these two women and also beautiful pictures of the younger Edies when they represented the East Hampton ideal. The documentary didn't come without its criticisms, though. Writing in 1976, New York Times critic Walter Goodman argued that it was exploitative. The Maisleys were not out to ridicule the Beales, but the film presents them as a pair of grotesques. Why were they put on exhibition this way? Why not let them get by as well as they can now without this public display of their weaknesses, peculiarities, touches of wackiness? I think the exploitation argument can be made for a lot of these reality home renovation, extreme hoarders type of shows. Unfortunately, like that mostly profile the homes of working class and middle class Americans. But it's clear that for celebrity homes, it's usually meant to be a flex. These celebrities are proud of what they and their interior decorators have achieved. However, in saying that, that doesn't necessarily mean that everyone agrees. Among the Architectural Digest tours, comment sections are filled with people either praising or criticizing the design choices. Recently, Lily Allen and David Harbour's home tour got some heat, especially as people compared it to David Harbour's previous home, which was also featured. Olivia Truffaut Wong wrote about it for The Cut. The townhouse includes a windowless master bedroom painted flamingo pink, which Allen calls a bedwomb.
It's a bedwomb.
2 walk-in closets, guess whose is bigger, a media room with a tiger print carpet and tiger print sofa, and a personal sauna and cold plunge tub out back. Even if it's not your taste, there's no denying this home has personality. Of course, the internet is already divided in its opinions on the home, but I think we can unite against carpeting in a bathroom. That's just asking for trouble. For me, I love a table made of the wood from Winston Churchill's yacht as much as the next girl. But the true luxury in these homes for me is the number of personal amenities they have. So many of them have like an indoor pool, a private tennis court, a bowling alley, a home theater, a ball pit. It's like something that I've been thinking about a lot actually, especially after watching Succession. True wealth, I feel like, is being able to exist in a completely separate world from the rest of the population.
I'm just wondering if I can hit you for like a little 100 mil.
A little 100 mil.
Yeah.
Well, maybe.
It's about not taking public transport. It's about flying private instead of commercial. And it's about creating public spaces within the home so you don't have to interact with the actual public. Some celebs, though, have taken it a step further in their decorating by turning their personal spaces into retail-like spaces. For example, RuPaul's drag closet is designed, lit, and merchandised like an upscale department store, and Bretman Rock's closet looks like a well-stocked Sephora.
Started off in makeup, obviously, and now I literally have Sephora in my house.
Well, not featured on 80s Open Door, Barbara Streisand's house has also been written about, and apparently in her basement she has a mini shopping mall featuring a gift shop, an antique clothing shop, a doll shop, and a sweet shop that serves frozen yogurt and popcorn. Each shop also comes with old-fashioned shop fronts that store her collection of personal items. Streisand told Harper's Bazaar in 2010, "Instead of just storing my things in the basement, I can make a street of shops and display them." Honestly, this is kind of a slay to me because I hate the idea of hoarding things. Granted, I'm literally not able to store anything I'm not using because New York City real estate keeps me humble. But I feel like it's such a waste to hold on to things you don't use or even look at. But part of me thinks that rich people subconsciously fetishize these retail spaces, especially because a lot of the time they don't do their own shopping anymore. They have personal shoppers. They have personal assistants who do errands for them. So retail becomes like this recreational cosplay in a similar way that in Elon Musk's TED Talk last year, he talked about how he was a couch surfer. Meanwhile, his net worth is literally around like $300 billion.
I don't even own a home right now. I'm literally staying at friends' places. If I travel to the Bay Area, where most of Tesla engineering is, I stay in I basically rotate through friends' spare bedrooms.
Sure. But back to these personal retail spaces. Khloe Kardashian's pantry, which looks like a fancy grocery store, is probably the best example of this phenomenon. In her pantry, there's sets of open-top wooden boxes, baskets, Lazy Susans, clear canisters, and all of them are placed on shelves which are evenly spaced. There's food in these containers as well, and there's multiples of everything, so it's like a very beautiful doomsday shelter. Kelly Pendergast wrote a really good essay about it, so I'm going to read a part. It's a piece of theater that allows consumer goods to regain the appeal and shiny productness that wore off them in transit. Without the department store, we must stage our own closets. Without the supermarket to enable the child's formative encounter with the object of desire, the cereal aisle where Captain Crunch and Count Chocula call out like sirens from child-height shelves, it's up to mom to reanimate the dead book Fruit Loops by decanting and displaying them and bringing some spectacle back. When the warehouse is your house, you have to revive the commodity yourself, spank its cheeks a little, and turn it back into a product. Kelsey also brings in the fact that Chloe is a reality TV star, and so by nature of her job, her home also literally operates as a storefront. Chloe's real work, or should I say her paid work, is to be herself in front of cameras, in front of millions. Her pantry's job in this formulation is to be a place where food can be seen on screen. This explains a lot. The tiered racks where cans of corn sit proudly in their own stadium seating. The repeating fluorescent strips shining a hard white light on every cubby like a Dan Flavin nightmare. It's a display case, a jewelry box, a home shopping set. Chloe's selling that corn on behalf of the brand partnership managers who organize the deal, and whichever other entities are taking a cut. With some of these tours, a question that comes up, at least to me, is how much of this is actually staged for the camera?
I was here last night, so like there's still stuff set up for me just last night painting.
I mean, obviously no one's going to invite AD over if there's like a chair in the corner of their bedroom that has a pile of clothes and that chair is literally not used for anything except for to hold piles of clothes, and if there's makeup scattered all over the vanity, and if there's cat toys everywhere on the floor, or maybe I'm just describing my own apartment, I don't know. In these tours, every object is going to be set dressed in a way that's organized and aesthetic. But then you may be wondering, what's the point of giving these highly staged tours to begin with if the point of a home tour is to invite the viewer into your actual domestic life?
This right here, this is a tape stain. Well, AD, that was my home. Thanks so much for coming.
Well, the easy answer is that, unfortunately, the content about most of these celebrity lives is mediated, predetermined by PR agents run through the PR filter. Like anytime a celebrity does a big interview, it's usually pre-scripted. And even stories on late night talk shows, which you assume are kind of more impromptu, those are also pre-scripted. The actress Darby Stanchfield, she actually explained this to Slate. The whole thing is planned out, and once you arrive at Jimmy Kimmel Live, the producer then comes to your dressing room and fills you in on what Kimmel has decided will be talked about. But back to homes. Cribs is a little notorious for scripting. For example, Jarul rented a mansion for his Cribs appearance, and its owner later sued him for making a huge mess and allowing a film crew into a place he didn't actually own. Bow Wow claimed he owned a bunch of nice cars on the show, but they were actually branded with the name of a Miami luxury car rental service, so I don't know how that escaped the producers. Robbie Williams borrowed Jane Seymour's house for his segment on Cribs. 50 Cent rented the fancy cars he showed off during his appearance, even though he was actually very rich when he appeared on the show, so he could have afforded his own cars.
I own every kind of a classic car because I'm rich, right? I even have doubles.
I don't know what happened. And JoJo, who is 13 years old and an early 2000s pop star, was actually living in hotels and pretended her uncle's house was her own house.
This is some of my family. They're crazy.
Before you say anything negative about these people, though, they were probably encouraged by the show's producers to rent properties. Rapper Redman, who had his own Cribs feature, told in an interview years later that MTV originally wanted him to rent a house for it, but he declined. The irony, though, is that all of this producer subterfuge is actually really pointless a lot of the time, because I feel like when a celebrity is actually genuine, people eat that shit up. Like, they love that. For example, Redman, he still participated in Cribs, but he showcased where he was actually living, which was his humble, mildly messy Staten Island duplex home. He also told an interviewer that the Cribs crew showed up earlier than expected, so he had just woken up when they arrived and didn't have time to properly clean up his place. One of the show's producers, Erica Clark, said of the episode, "I remember when we got this footage back being like, what the fuck are we going to do with this? He was himself and put no airs about him. I was like, this is funny. This is kind of hilarious. But I remember saying to the editor, is anyone going to want to watch this? Are we going to get in trouble? And surprise, surprise, audiences loved it. They loved that it was different, that it was relatable and unapologetic. The episode ended up becoming one of the more popular ones in the series. Redman, who still lives in the duplex, said of the episode's success, "Once you do things and keep things 100% with yourself, you can never lose. And that's just what happened. That's why we won. We kept it 100, and we kept it truthful all the way. It taught me a lesson to stick to my guns and to be true to myself. Don't be somebody you're not. Don't do things that are not you. Dakota Johnson's house tour, which she did for AD, is another example of authenticity winning. So her AD video went even more viral after she admitted that the bowl of limes in her kitchen was staged. She confessed this on The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon.
I actually didn't even know that they were in there. I was giving the tour and went into the kitchen and it was set dressing. I'm allergic to limes.
Oh my, stop it now.
Yeah, I'm mildly allergic to them and honey melon, so another green thing.
It's even funnier because in the original video, Dakota actually spotlights the limes, saying, "I love limes."
I love them. They're great. I love them so much, and I like to present them like this in my house.
Which is actually like extremely relatable to me, because if I'm nervous about something, usually I'll like draw attention to it. I'll draw more attention to it, which is why I always point out when my curtains are uneven. Some people were disappointed at her confession, sure, but most people saw it as a positive thing overall. Olivia Harrison wrote for Refinery29, "All of this is exactly why the internet can't get enough of Dakota Johnson, especially during these times. So if this is Johnson at her worst, she's what? Lying to YouTube audiences about liking limes simply because she was bombarded with bowls and bowls of them and didn't want to be rude? I'll take it." Despite these success stories, producers and PR managers avoid complete authenticity because it can't be controlled, unfortunately. There are times when it does backfire, and I guess like the headache of managing a situation is not worth it for them. For example, one PR scandal was at the 2017 Met Gala. Celebrities like Bella Hadid, Dakota Johnson, Rami Malek were caught via social media smoking cigarettes in the bathroom. In general, there are a lot of people who get upset about smoking, period, but the major issue here was that they were smoking indoors, which is something that is illegal according to New York City law. I think it was the 2003 Smoke-Free Air Act. The pictures outraged museum donors and the New York City Health Department, rightly so. Dr. Mary Bassett, who was New York City's health commissioner, wrote a letter to executives at the Met saying, "We were dismayed to read reports that some celebrities chose smoking as their fashion accessory and flagrantly violated New York City's smoking laws. All visitors to public places deserve protection from secondhand smoke, including people who are visiting places like the Met." So, needless to say, it's not always great to have all your shit aired out in public. But I think when it comes down to house tours, people like to see real personality, either in how the host is addressing the audience or in how they choose to decorate. So, in saying that, I want to conclude with talking about some of my favorite Architectural Digest tours. And granted, I haven't seen all like 140 something house tours, so I'm sure there's like a great tour that I haven't seen and that, you know, is still great. So please let me know in the comments like what your favorite tour is, and also what's your least favorite tour, just to be fun. But I was watching a bunch today, and I really love any house that has a lot of personality, even if it's not like particularly my favorite type of interior design. I like when I can see that they actually tried to convey something interesting. So the best example I can think of a house that I personally would like not live in, but I think is great, was Debbie Ryan's house. It's just like really quirky, and they have a lot of like fun, colorful, kitschy embellishments. Like they have a corn stool. They have a bust of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Again, I would never have a bust of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in my house. I would never have a corn stool in my house, but I like that it shows their personalities, you know? I also really liked Dita Von Teese's house. That's kind of more in line with my own personal interior design. It's very opulent. It's full of antiques. I love her kitchen. That's probably my favorite room in her house. I have a fetish for a nicely decorated kitchen. I'm not gonna lie. I also like Troye Sivan's house a lot. It's not necessarily something that I saw myself liking. Like it's a little bit more contemporary for my taste. But when I was watching it, I was like, I think I could actually really enjoy living in here because it was so cozy, and the interior designer that he worked with, the architect that he worked with, really knew how to light up places and really like maximize light, which is really important for me. So I liked that a lot about his house. And I also liked the little courtyard he had. Ugh, I love a courtyard. I do like David Harbour and Lily Allen's house, apartment, townhouse. Even though, you know, the carpet in the bathroom is a lot for me. And also the tiger room was a lot for me. But again, the kitchen was really nice and it had personality. And also they were really fun as a couple narrating. So I give points for entertainment as well. Chloe Fineman had a really funny one that came out. And again, like, I mean, I think all of these places, like, they're genuinely beautiful. It's just like my particular taste, right? Like if I had all the money in the world and could design my own dream house. But Chloe, she kept it really real and she said that she was renting, which I think is so funny because I don't know if anyone else has done a video where they were renting. And she like showed her messy kitchen drawers and she talked about like regrettable Etsy purchases.
This is a regretsy, but now I'm trying not to regret it. I think this woman took puffy paint and stencils and tried to say this was like an Italian antique pillow.
I am not really familiar with her work because I don't watch SNL, but I have a lot of respect for her. And I think she's like hilarious and is one of those things again where it's like she was authentically herself. And that's why it was such a fun video. As for apartments that I don't like or houses that I don't like, I don't know. I can't name any names particularly. I guess Kim Kardashian, I don't really love her house, though she didn't do an AD tour, I don't think. I don't know if her tour was through AD. I think it was with Vogue. But yeah, just because like it didn't really have much personality. I think for me, that's the biggest thing. If your house has personality, like that's fine. I love it. I love what you're doing. Like Cara Delevingne's house, again, like tons of personality. And you can tell like, even if they have an interior decorator, even if they're working with an architect, they do have like a significant input in the decisions, in the overall decisions. And that's how it should be because I hate the idea of like someone with a ton of money just not caring about their home because if I had that money, I would literally make my home like the most beautiful home for me personally, subjective taste ever. So yeah, maybe one day. Maybe one day. Anyways, okay, this is the end of the video. Thank you all so much for listening in and for, you know, being a part of my day and having me be a part of your day. I'll see you next time. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. And yeah, bye. This is like my favorite outfit of all time. And I have never worn it for anything other than to just like try around my house and pretend I'm like Norma from Sunset Boulevard. But I got this from my friend who is a vintage seller. And it's from the 1920s. And it actually has a label for Saks Fifth Avenue. So it's 1920s Saks Fifth Avenue. And then also this hat I got separately from another dealer. So they didn't come together. And I had to get it because, I mean, it's not like a perfect color match. But I'm like, when am I going to find a vintage robe and hat combination again? Especially like a 1920s robe. My favorite era of clothing. Like, I know it's steal when I see it and I have to get it. So the reason I haven't worn this outfit like anywhere is because it's super, super delicate. It has a train, so I don't want someone stepping on it accidentally. It's like sturdy enough where I can wear it, but you know, I'm kind of like moving around like Mr. Roboto because any sudden movements and then a tassel could fall off or something. Because yeah, there's a tassel here. I don't know if you can see.